What do you do when the crucial conversation is aimed at you? Today, how to pull the real story out of someone who's gone silent and how to take tough feedback without letting it write your story for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Sedaris Leadership Lounge Book Club. I'm your host today, Chris Duncan, and I'm joined by my three favorite people, Shannon McCoy, Alan Edwards, and Jay Jacobson.
All right. Up to this point, we've covered how to spot a conversation going sideways, how to make it safe again, and how to say the hard thing without blowing it all out of proportion. Today, we're diving into chapters 9 and 10 of Crucial Conversations. So this is a big shift as we now turn our attention to the other person. So as we explore today's chapters, I want us all to think about one question to keep in mind, and that is, what is the one insight I could apply today to create space and safety for both parties?
If any of this is new to you or you missed out on the last chapters, every episode is on YouTube and at sedaris.com/book club. That's CDAERIS.com/book club. Before Jay gets us started, he was voted to lead us in voice today. If you're watching live or have any questions, thoughts, or just want to let us know you're listening, we welcome your comments. Put them in the comments section below. And as that famous shoe company once said, just do it. Put it in the chat, and while you're down there, like and subscribe. Jay, will you go ahead and get us started? Introduce us to the other side of Crucial Conversations.
I'll be happy to do that. It's interesting that the author has taken this long, but chapter 9 represents a major shift in the way we approach conversations. So far in this book, he's talked a lot about what we do in our part of the conversation. And chapter 9 asks us to shift that and to really pay attention to what the other person is doing. What is going through their mind as we're having those crucial conversations. And oftentimes we'll find ourselves in a conversation where the other person simply goes quiet. And a lot of times, we interpret that as they don't have anything to say. But what we really should be asking is, why have they gone quiet? What is going through their mind that they don't feel comfortable enough to offer the opinions that they actually have? Are they not feeling safe? Have they been beaten down before in terms of providing information? And so it's our job to not only pay attention to what our side of the conversation is, but what might be the story or what's going through the head of the person that we're having the conversation with.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in chapter 9 because, when the theme is actually explore others' paths. And so the first thing, after reading it, I thought, okay, this is really interesting to think about. What is behind, earlier we talked about what is it, why would a person who's wise or hardworking or, who's been consistent, why would they talk like this now? Why would they, why would this come up this way? So now we're talking about what's behind all that. What's their path? What got them there? Why are we now having this discussion that is maybe a crucial conversation that needs to be addressed in a certain way? So I think that's how we got here.
Yeah, so it becomes important to just, as we've been talking about in past weeks, creating that safety. And I think this chapter finally gives us some tools for how to actually make it safe and pull them back into the conversation. And this is where we enter our dreaded acronyms again.
Ooh, love the acronyms. We can stick them on the wall with all the rest of the acronyms.
I've only been 2 or 3 acronyms that I think that I would write on a card and keep in my wallet so far. And I do think that this chapters are one of them. So the first one is how to draw them back into the conversation. And they use an acronym AMP, a 2P, so AMPP. Ask, invite them to talk. Mirror, name what you see. Paraphrase, repeat it back to them in your own words. And then if they're still stuck, prime, make an educated guess to get them talking. And I would love to do maybe some role playing. I did not prepare for this. But there's some great conversations. Let's pick on Jay. Jay, could you be our crucial conversation student and let me be the person who's been withdrawn and quiet in a conversation and you use AMP?
I will certainly do my very best.
All right.
This is for those playing along at home, and this will be a first live role play, unstructured, unpracticed. This could go wildly wrong.
Yeah.
I'm throwing these kind of
on
things every
proportion.
day, so yeah, we're going to learn about Alan, things that we may not have ever wanted to know. So
Yeah, let's keep it G-rated.
Yeah.
So Alan, it looks like you have something you'd like to add to this conversation, and we haven't really called on you. Is there something you'd like to share with us?
No, I'm fine.
You know, I hear you saying that you're fine. I really do. But what I'm observing is that you're not fine, that there is something here. Just your body language tells me you would like to add something, and we'd really like to hear what you have to say.
Look, I hear you saying that, but you guys are taking up all the space and you're saying what needs to be said. I don't think you need another voice at this point.
Well, I hear you saying that we're kind of absorbing all of the space in the room and we haven't made room for you. So let's give you an opportunity. Here's some time for you to just share what's on your mind and let us know what you're feeling about this conversation.
I feel like you guys are saying the right things. I just wish I could say some stuff too.
Well, maybe you'd like to share what the other acronym is.
Okay. When you disagree, Jay disagrees with me. When you disagree, you got to use the ABC. The A is for agree. Start with what you do agree on. B is build from there and add what's missing instead of arguing over the differences. And then C, compare. Compare stories without declaring one story is right or wrong.
Now, for the people who are watching, we literally just walked through AMP. All five of those, or four of those, four of those acronyms to get Alan to the point where he would share the second acronym. And that's what it takes. It takes that persistence in some cases to get somebody drawn out to the point where they really have no choice but to share what they're thinking.
Yeah, I think so many of us avoid that conflict, which again we covered in past weeks. And it's amazing what you can uncover when you just take the conflict head on with your heart in the right place. I really want you to be heard and to feel like you belong. How do we make this happen? And it turns conversations around so quickly.
Yeah. I'm still hearing that that humility that it takes to be a good leader. We're applying this to leadership, most of us, and I think about how, for us to be able to be patient and listen and to be the type of person that's approachable. That's spoken of a lot for coaches who have been certified as coaches and leaders, and to help their organization develop personally and professionally. And so these are the same things that I'm seeing here, that these are really good acronyms to remember, because it helps us to step into that role of what we know is best for the organization or best as a leader, so that people feel safe to bring up anything around us.
I think the underrated hero in the ABC is only the agree part, because there's a little note in there that most of the time we're actually fighting over the same exact thing. We all want the same thing, and there's some minor difference that ends up becoming the argument, and we don't want to throw away the 95% for the 5% we disagree on. And man, the number of times I've listened to arguments, healthy arguments, even in business leadership teams, in my family, and I'm listening in, I'm going like, you guys are saying the same thing in a different way.
Yes.
And then you start building in and then comparing the stories. Like, you're saying this, and if you see here, they all line up. We just disagree on when to start or how to write it or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in many board meetings where you're sitting back just watching that happen. And everybody is so involved in telling their story and getting their point across, they aren't hearing that the other person actually agrees with them. And so that argument goes on and on and on about the agreement they already have. Yeah. So stepping back and being able to mirror that agreement, to say, what I'm hearing is that you both agree on this. And let's build off of that. Now, we aren't quite here to the conclusion we want. So here are some extra facts that maybe we haven't considered. And that's part of the building part of this acronym. And then comparing the differences. Okay, this is the difference we see here and the difference we see on this side. So how do we consolidate these into a solution?
Yeah.
And that moves the conversation forward instead of being stuck in, okay, we're going to argue about the same thing. And it forces people to start listening to themselves.
I like the point about agreement being the hidden starting point, but I'd be curious how each of you tells the difference between somebody who's really agreeing and just staying polite to avoid any of the tension.
Is this science or art?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point, Chris, because once again, in leadership, well, you are the leaders, whoever's running, like to say if they're facilitating a meeting, and they're also in charge of the outcomes of that meeting and getting people on board. There's a lot of folks who won't speak up because they're just and that's just, they see that as appropriate, is to keep their voice down. So this is really good, once again, for leaders to call that out of the people and say, and when you see something when you see it stuck and you want to get it moving, this ABC works great, because now you're getting them, you're saying you want to hear their story. And then when they tell their story, you compare it to the one you have and try to fit that little 5% gap that you were off, right? Because you have the same desired outcomes, as Alan was mentioning earlier, just getting to it a different way.
Yeah. What if they still don't participate or have comment, and it's because we still haven't created a safe space? Like they still don't feel safe?
Yes, that is absolutely the answer. But I also feel there's an important distinction, Shannon. You mentioned leadership teams, and we all have. This is the leadership lounge, but this book can be applied interpersonally in families and personal situations as well. And I think sometimes that makes the conversations even easier when you look at it from a leadership perspective, right? It is your job to create safety. It is their job to perform a duty, because typically they are some sort of expert in whatever it is they do, even if they're a receptionist, right? They're the expert at what's happening there, and we need to actually value their opinion. Shelley has a great comment here, and this is I wanted to bring up anyways: emotional intelligence. Not every leader has it, but I feel like it should be one of those requirements to be in a leadership position, is to have some EQ, or emotional intelligence. Shelley says, watch their eyes. Are they making eye contact? Are they looking away? Are they asleep?
Yeah. It tells a story, right? And that's what we're trying to find, is the story.
Yeah.
One of the tools that I've used in trying to get people to add to that pool of meaning when they're silent is to tear my own story down. I'll say, this is my position on it, but maybe I haven't considered everything that this might affect. Is there someone out there who has some ideas that might affect how this would ultimately be resolved? So you're inviting people to tear down your own idea, and that opens up that dialogue and gives people the safety to kind of dive in. But when you do that, you have to genuinely want the feedback. You can't shut them down or argue about their feedback because you've asked for it. You've asked them to enter into the conversation. And so you have to encourage that.
Now, I've seen leaders, frankly, I have one client right now. I think he's a tremendous leader in a lot of ways. But for the most part, everybody's executing their ideas. And I keep wanting to say, hey, let's open this up to other people. And he's like, yeah, but I know what I want to do. And his business is doing well. And I think people do push back when the time is appropriate, but it's not as often as I'd like it to be to really build a team. But he likes having the weight of the company on his shoulders.
Yeah, matter of fact, that's what I was going to bring up, Alan, is why would somebody want to do anything different than this, right? The flip side of that is do it different because you like the way you're headed, you're comfortable the way it's headed, you like people just saying yes, so that there's, because we see it as some type of a hiccup when somebody says no, or somebody doesn't approve, or it's wastes of time. And these are the things that likely come up in a person's mind. And again, I'm the leader, so this is a real
But the real question to ask the leader is what are you leaving on the table by not at least hearing fresh new ideas? You may be leaving a ton of opportunity there that you never hear about.
Well, and what is the enemy of great, right? The enemy of great is not bad. The enemy of great is good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And earlier, so part of these lessons leading up to this was talking about that's actually where the gold may be. And we think about that way. The gold may be actually in getting the people who aren't speaking to at least share their story, to hear, explore their paths of how they come to their conclusions. And that may be just the answer you're looking for. So we want to welcome, we want to welcome their story, and not to be defensive in any way.
Absolutely.
Well, this might be a good spot to segue into what the next chapter is about.
Let's do it.
Which is titled "Retake Your Pen." The problem. Well, Alan, tell us about "Retake Your Pen."
Well, first off, I have some issues with the metaphor. The metaphor works, first of all. So the concept behind the statement "retake your pen" is that whoever holds the pen is writing the story, right? And in the early days, you're writing your own story. Hey, I want to go to college. I want to go do this. I'm going to do this. And then next thing you know, there's some great examples in the book is, oh, I did a good job, and the boss told me I did a good job, and that felt good. Well, next time I do a job and the boss doesn't tell me I do a good job, I feel bad. Well, who's writing the story now? Suddenly the boss has your pen, and they're writing your story and making you feel how you feel. So the metaphor works. I don't know. I don't know if it's antiquated, but I was like, retake your pen. It took me a while to get my head around it, even though I did understand it in the end.
Yeah.
So how does that apply, though, to crucial conversations?
I thought there was an interesting dichotomy in this chapter. We're talking about retaking our pen, but sandwiched in this whole story is the story of the Other Side Academy and the game they play, where it is almost anti-crucial conversation, where these ex-cons are put into a program where they receive very negative feedback and almost unfiltered, and how it's processed and how it develops their character, which goes to point out that not all of us react the same way to the same tools. And so we have to be cognizant of the fact that different conversation styles are necessary for different situations. I think I shared earlier the facility that out in Salt Lake City where this takes place. I've seen that facility, and it's a wonderful program. And that area of the country is renowned for building entrepreneurs. And so it's kind of a natural outpour that they would take these felony convicted individuals and teach them to be business entrepreneurs. I think it's a wonderful program, but it does point out a conversation issue that we don't all react the way the book tells us we're going to react.
That was my favorite story to read in this book, where these convicts who are used to taking no gruff and you go punch the biggest man in the yard when you arrive. They essentially taught them to hear critical feedback without reacting, which is so hard to do. I'd be curious if there's any outtakes to that story.
Yeah. When I first saw this chapter and then started reading it, I started thinking about retake your pen. It's kind of like you having a one-to-one conversation, and again, this is all about stories, right? We all have our own stories, and so one person starts to, when they're speaking, it's like they're writing, right? They're writing the narrative of the story, and then if you don't take the pen, then you have no input, and you have nothing to own to show up with. And then, so I was thinking, there's like, you could say that with if in a board meeting, you need to retake your chalk. If you're talking to your child? You need to retake your crayon. No, I don't know. But it's just, I think it's a really good point to remember that we're not part of a bigger solution if we don't take our pen back from time to time and express what our desired outcome is as well. Not only the let's say the company we work with, not only their vision, mission, and purpose, but ours and how it fits within the scenario.
Well, this also brings us to another acronym in this chapter, CURE, which talks about before you react. And this kind of pivots off of the story of the felons. You collect yourself first. You don't just jump right in. You start to understand what they're saying. You give yourself time to recover from what they're saying, and then you engage. Now, another book that I've recently read is called The Anxious Generation, and it talks about, particularly with teenage boys, the amount of time it takes them from the time they get aggravated until you can actually have a conversation with them is about 20 minutes. It takes that long for the chemicals in their system to restrike balance. And as adults, we do better at that. But there's still a chemical change when we get aggravated and upset that we have to allow time to process. And I think this CURE acronym is a great tool for recognizing that and working through that.
So Jay, can you walk us through the acronym?
Yes, C it stands for collect yourself first. You're going to get yourself under control, then you're going to understand. The U is understand. You're going to get curious about what is bringing this person to be critical of me or critical of what we're doing or my idea. You're going to process that information. You're going to give it time. You're going to recover from what they've told you, regroup, and then you're going to come back and then engage. You're going to seek for the truth. What is their story behind why they're reacting the way they are? Are they reacting in a way that a reasonable person would react? If they're not, what is the story that's driving it? If they are, then maybe you examine your own story. Why am I so bent out of shape? Because they're only reacting the way a normal person would react.
I believe that was the rule. I want to call it a halfway house, as I have forgotten the name of the organization. But for these recovering convicts who are starting businesses, their job was to sit there and collect the information.
Right. It's called the Other Side Academy, and the program's called GAME. Yeah.
If you when you get GAME, it means you're actually getting critical feedback, and you just have to go sit with it until the next meeting.
Yeah.
Which gives you that time to get away from that chemical reaction, right? So you can understand and recover, and then when you come back at the next week's meeting, you can engage.
Yeah.
Got it. And then for those who might not have caught it, thank you to Dobie for the comment. CURE was collect, understand, recover, and engage.
Man, Christian, a great job at facilitating.
Yes.
I'm learning.
He's back. His voice is back.
Yeah.
His mind is back.
Yeah, I've only had one coughing fit so far during the show, so that's an improvement.
Nice.
Glad to have it.
All right. Well, we want to bring this back into practical application. So, have we covered all of what we want to say about retaking our pen before we wrap it up? Any last comments?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a terrible segue I just created, but let's see then. Jay, what's something that we can do this week to be mindful and conscious of, to recognize when a conversation has gone off the rails and we need to bring it back in, or we've got somebody who's not on the same path as the current conversation?
I wrote down two things. First, understand the other person's path does not require abandoning your own. You can still hold on to your path. You can still understand the other person's path. The second is the purpose of paraphrasing is not to repeat the words. It is to prove the meaning was heard. So you're reinforcing the fact, you're not agreeing with them. You're reinforcing the fact, I heard what you're saying. Now let's talk about it. So it's a way, it's a segment, a way of moving forward.
Great.
Have you ever heard somebody practicing active listening in all the wrong ways?
Yes.
Just parroting back what you said, and like that's not how this works.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Or it's
that's
super
like
obvious.
the, I feel like the too many I feel likes. I feel like you, and I feel like you. I'm like, oh no.
Put the book down. Let's talk.
Yeah, exactly. Alan, what's your thoughts for this week? What do you want people to focus on?
Let's focus on my advice to pick something different. Let's focus on the cure part, which is layman's terms. When you receive critical feedback, shut up.
Mhm.
Right? Just know that things are happening in your body you can't control. It's perfectly normal. Just be quiet, take the time to process it, and don't speak until that has passed. Maybe that's in a minute, maybe that's in a week, and that's okay.
And I think that's honestly chapter 10 of all of them is the one that is probably should stand out as the chapter that everybody needs to work on directly every moment of every day, because we get feedback and none of us like feedback. We say we encourage feedback, and that's kind of a mantra that modern business says. But when it comes to personal feedback, it hurts. And we don't want to necessarily hear it or acknowledge it or listen to it. And I don't know, that's my opinions of chapter 10, is that's the one that probably should be expanded upon and be everlasting.
Of all the great timing, I had some tough feedback this week, and I had to sit there and go, okay, stop shutting him down, because it was my temptation to keep shutting him down.
Yeah, you got to get it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shannon, what about you? What does this next week hold for your clients? What do you want them thinking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking about two different things, and I'll say one is 5% and one is pause. So typically only 5% is maybe missing in a conversation that is crucial, and maybe there's some argumentative behaviors. Think about that. So how do I get to that? How do I get to that 5%? Because that's what we all want, is to let's share our stories and let's get to that 5% that's just off a little bit. So look for that. And the other thing is pause. I say pause because I like to think I'm a good listener, but pausing is different in the way that they're explaining it here. Pausing and listening. Okay, listening is one thing, but pausing is to realize, like, how am I feeling? How are they feeling? Looking at the eyes of the other person, all these different things that I can't say I always do. The pausing part is probably the hardest for me.
Well said.